Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me, as always, is Andrew Meadows.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. Long time no see. Just kidding. We recorded a day ago, but as we talked about on that episode, Andrew's going on vacation shortly, and so we're banking up some episodes, and there's just a lot of good stuff that's come out recently, and one of those good things that has come out recently, that has finished recently, has been out for a while, is the Disney Plus Marvel Studios television show WandaVision. Which all 9 episodes have now aired. We've now seen them all, at least personally speaking, as of today, in fact. And it's going to be a good one. Because joining us, how could we do something Marvel Studios related without our resident Marvel expert? So welcome back to the show, Mr. Henrique Jaime. How are you doing?
Good, gentlemen. It is actually good to see you. I haven't seen you all in a little bit, so this would be nice catching up, and we finally got some MCU to talk about. It's been a while.
It's been a year plus,
yeah.
Right? I mean,
it's true.
Since Spider-Man Far From Home,
basically, yeah.
That's right. Mm-hmm. I think that would have been the last MCU entry that we got. Yeah. It does break quite the drought for Marvel content. Obviously, we should have seen many things until now. In fact, this wasn't even the first Disney Plus show we were supposed to get once upon a time.
Right.
We would have already seen all of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but we do have that to look forward to starting up in a couple weeks' time, which is very exciting, but maybe we can talk about that some other time. WandaVision is the focus of today, and having some MCU goodness back in our lives is just...
It's incredible.
It just feels right. Something, you feel empty, you feel like something's missing when that stuff is not with you, and yeah, it's like being reunited with an old friend in some ways, and the old friend's got some new tricks up its sleeve as well. So I'm excited to talk about WandaVision in some full detail before long. Henrique, as you mentioned, it has been a little while. I guess we probably last heard from you on the podcast for The Mandalorian,
right?
But how have things been going for you? Since then.
Yeah, no, pretty good on my end. A lot of work as I'm sure Andrew also has been doing, but otherwise pretty good. I've been able to catch up on a few things. I'm behind on all the things I want to watch, but I can get to that towards the end of our episode. But otherwise pretty good. Just working, catching up with some TV. The PS5 is also nice when I can get around to it. So yeah, doing all right.
Get some Marvel goodness on there too,
yeah.
In the form of Spider-Man Miles Morales. So. And some other things too. So, all right. Well, very good. Why don't we start with some fun facts that relate to WandaVision? I have a very small fun fact I would like to volunteer, and then I'm going to toss it to anyone else that wants to add on to that. I don't think it's really any secret. I think the trailers were pretty clear about it. This is a show that involves kind of different sitcom eras and, riffing on different sitcoms as kind of the setting for different episodes. And interestingly enough, they hired Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez to write theme songs, like era-appropriate theme songs for that. And they are the kind of duo responsible for some bangers that we saw and some Disney and some Pixar films, particularly Frozen. They worked on Frozen and Frozen 2 on the songs for that. And they also worked on Remember Me from Coco.
Oh, man.
Man. Just thinking about that might get the waterworks flowing. But, clearly a very talented bunch, and they brought their talents to WandaVision. And... you might say it paid off dividends. What do you think, Andrew?
Absolutely. My fun fact was going to be the fact that one of the songs, Agatha All Along, I think is the name of the song.
That's a catchy one.
Yes, and it's topped the. It debuted at number 6. Talking like Mike Tyson. Debuted as number 36 on its digital song sales survey with 3,000 downloads as of February 25th. It topped the iTunes chart and 1.7 million streams on Spotify. It's part of it's part of episode 7. It's super catchy, and apparently it's quite popular. Who would have thought?
I've listened to it a few times myself, I must confess. I think it's also been, there's a lot of memes, I think, that were born out of the song.
Yeah.
And so I think that contributed to the popularity. I think even probably for people that weren't watching WandaVision, they probably still caught wind of, the song through TikTok, Instagram, whatever the kids are up to these days.
I didn't know that people were making memes of it. What part of the song did they make memes of?
The wink, the really exaggerated wink,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha. I can see it.
Yeah. If a show has a meme and a popular song come out of it, that's pretty good in itself.
Saying something.
Yeah. So it's very exciting. It got some catchy tunes in this show. I think there are a few other reasons that maybe make it worth your time. We'll talk about that, but catchy tunes are just one of those things. And so perhaps that's a okay segue into the next thing. I must backtrack ever so slightly. From what I said on our last episode on Judas and the Black Messiah. I said that hopefully there would be no more sad news after we discussed the passing of Christopher Plummer. But unfortunately, Daft Punk, who themselves have made quite a few catchy tunes, have officially split up as a duo. This is a couple weeks old, this news coming out, but I specifically waited for Henrique to be on here because I know Daft Punk means a lot to all of us. And I tried to, as a preview of coming attractions, I tried to make all of the news for this episode Marvel Studio centric, in fact. This is the one exception. However, Daft Punk are robots, which I would argue are close enough to synthezoids, so, I'm calling them Marvel adjacent for now, even though there's really is no connection otherwise. And some the listeners can't appreciate this, but Henrique and Andrew can appreciate this. Anna is posing behind me, holding up my poster of Daft Punk with "Lose Yourself to Dance," little Pharrell Williams and Nile Rodgers action in there as well.
That's a pretty sweet poster.
That is a sweet poster.
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah. Very cool. So Daft Punk, it's a bummer. They put out, RAM and random access memories in, I think, 2013, and everyone thought, Alive 2017, it's going to happen, there's going to be a tour, and it never happened, which is to say that none of us, unfortunately, had the opportunity to see them live. Perhaps we never will. I am saying Alive 2037, believe. I think 2027 is too close in time. Give them benefit of 15 years. I think they'll miss it too much and they'll want to come back, but it's not. I know this is music news, but Daft Punk did contribute. I think a legendary score to Tron Legacy, particularly. So I'm calling it film and television adjacent for that reason alone. And they also made a couple films. Electroma is like a weird kind of film, and then they did
an anime one, right?
They did an anime one, as well. I haven't seen either of them. But anyway, Daft Punk no more.
Legendary.
It's a real bummer.
They are legendary people that will go down in history forever. They're so good. And it makes me so sad. And they even put out that fucking video. I think it's called Epilogue.
Mm-hmm. Which is a clip from Electroma, the film that they made.
Is that?
Just basically the ending sequence of that film. So if you watch that and you liked that, maybe you like the film too. I don't know. But I haven't seen it, so...
Man,
yeah,
it sucks.
I'm like, when I saw Daft Punk news, I'm like, oh, could it be? I was like, no, it's worse. They're breaking up.
Yeah.
Could it be a new album? No.
Yeah, you want it to be something like I'll take a score. I'll take I'll take something.
Any new project.
Tron 3, okay, right, we're going to get Tron 3 with Jared Leto, but maybe we can still get Tron 3 with Jared Leto and Daft Punk contributing a score, a new score for it.
I don't think
now
so.
Now we're just left with Daft Punk, now we're just left with Tron 3 with Jared Leto, which is to say, I think I might be good at this point. I think I might be okay. I don't think I need it anymore. Yeah, it sucks. But The music will always be there. You can always lose yourself to dance. You can always discover them. You can always feel human after all. You can always do homework while listening to Daft Punk. All right, I'm done with all the things that I can think of in terms of Daft Punk. You can randomly access the memories of listening to Daft Punk when you were younger and they were still around, that sort of thing. So unfortunate, but
yeah. I gotta think that one of them might be going solo. Like, that's just pure speculation, but I don't know. Like, why break? I don't think we need to get into this, but it just seemed like weird to announce a breakup when they haven't done a new solo or new album in so long.
And it'll wait on years.
Yeah,
years. Yeah, I could see that. Continuing on, making other music, producing other music.
Sure.
I think they've been producing stuff all along anyway. So yeah, I'm sure we will hear from both Daft and Punk in the future. It's not what they're called. That was a joke, but
what are they called?
I think that's
Do you know
true.
what they are called?
They have real names. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, their real names
they're
are out
French.
there. It's the Thomas Bangalter and Guy Manuel de Cristo, I think, are their real names. So very French names, but I'm sure they'll be bringing something before long. But we can still mourn the loss of Daft Punk for now and hope for better things in the future. But anyway, we'll talk about some more robots or robot adjacent things with WandaVision in a little while. As I mentioned, we have pretty much exclusively Marvel news. I tried to theme it specifically that way. I thought it'd be fun. As I said on the last episode, there's a million things of news that we haven't had the opportunity to talk about. And it just ended up being that there were 6 things of Marvel news that felt like they could build up an episode and have a very Marvel-centric episode between the news and the main content. So I thought it might be kind of fun to theme it that way. We'll see if it works out, but we're going to go for it and see what happens. The first thing is something that may or may not come to fruition, as I'll explain. Back in January, if you guys can remember that far back, Deadline broke the news that Chris Evans is apparently set to return as Captain America in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in some form, maybe a bit role or cameo appearance in a future Marvel thing, probably not a Captain America 4 or anything like that. And then Chris Evans on Twitter, I think the day of or day after, was basically saying, news to me, shrug emoji, that sort of thing. So, Marvel actors tend to play coy, with things like this that are intended to remain secret, and then just due to the nature of Hollywood and trades trying to, get all the scoops, scooper's gonna scoop. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with this. Do you guys have any strong feelings and opinions? Would you want to see some more Chris Evans? Do you have any idea of how that might play out, or what you would like to see, that, what form that might take?
Old Chris Evans.
Well, what if they got Joe Biden to play old man Captain America instead?
You can't tell the difference. You can't tell the difference at all.
I know he's busy, running a country, but in his free time, what if he just like a little cameo as old man Captain America? No. I don't know. I need to see kind of what this is going to be. He's obviously, I think we can talk about Endgame spoilers at this point, but he's not dead, but he clearly out of the picture for the most part. So I'd be interested to see how they bring him back. I'm not completely opposed to it, but I think you have to do it in a way. Like, I don't think we need to make a Captain America 4 when they close the story so perfectly. So if he's going to be more of a cameo or in the sideline to kind of add to a story, I'd be okay with that, but I don't think he needs to be the focal point of anything else now.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tough. I mean, he had such a good... I think it was like the perfect resolution, I think, for that character, in my opinion, such that, like, I don't need it. Clearly, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is very much about who's getting to pick up the mantle of Captain America, and obviously Sam got handed the shield, but, we see... U.S. agent in the trailers for that. So clearly there is some pushback to that idea, and I think that's what the show's going to explore is, the legacy of Captain America and who's who is the appropriate person to take over that legacy or to, fulfill it. But I don't know. I mean, I could see a cameo even in that, just to tie it together with the end of Endgame. It doesn't seem like that's what this is referring to. This seems like something that's probably a couple years down the line, you know what I mean? But, maybe Secret Invasion, someone just shows up looking like Captain America and it's a mystery thing. It's not actually Captain America. It's just, some sort of weird bullshit. Or we get multiverse shenanigans and that's how he comes in, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. Chris Evans is great. So, if he's game to come back and they bring him back for something that makes sense in terms of the storyline, then fine. Why not? As long as they're not really doing it to undo the resolution that I think we got with the character, I think it can work just fine. So
I agree.
Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. Moving on. Andrew's boy Oscar Isaac's getting some competition. He's getting the villain opposite him in the upcoming Disney Plus Moon Knight series. Ethan Hawke is set to play the villain.
That's awesome
of Moon Knight. So.
I like Ethan Hawke a lot.
Yeah, he's great. No details on who is going to be, who the villain will be. I myself am not overly familiar with Moon Knight, such that I don't know if he has, like an obvious villain character. Hollywood Reporter is suggesting his arch nemesis is a villain named Bushman, I'm not sure. A fellow mercenary who turned on the hero when Egyptian gold came into the picture, so maybe that's Ethan Hawke, who's to say. But Ethan Hawke is great, so it seems like a good bit of casting that he would be willing to board this series. Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke in the same show. I think any show would probably be like, okay,
that's a good pitch right there.
Yeah,
right. And then it's a fucking Marvel Disney Plus series, and it's just like, okay, all right, I don't need anything else. I'm good.
No, I'm sold.
So,
and I feel like he's one of those you just don't see him a lot, Ethan Hawke. He doesn't act in a lot of different stuff.
I feel like he's not
he's.
Yeah.
I feel like he's taken some more obscure roles. I know he has the Good Lord Bird, I think, on Showtime Stars, one of those kind of, other non-HBO premium networks.
Right.
Which I think he's supposed to be pretty good in. But yeah, I think, he seems to be more choosy, I think, with his roles these days. So,
good for him.
The fact that he is appearing in something like this does seem to indicate that there was something there, that appealed to him. Yeah. Hopefully it's not just for the promise of a paycheck, although I'm sure he'll be getting paid plenty. But yeah, I don't know. It's exciting. We need more details, I think, in terms of the who and what and everything. And, I think this show is at least a year away, probably late 2022 would be my guess for Moon Knight, maybe mid to late, I guess, maybe optimistically, but it's cool. It's cool with me.
Yeah, seems like they still have a lot of pieces to put together.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
No, it's cool.
I'm looking forward to it.
Officially dubbed cool, and so that brings us to another piece of very cool news. Perhaps I guess in my estimation, the coolest of any of the news on this episode. Maybe I should have saved it for last, but I was going in terms of when things dropped. Ryan Coogler signed a new multi-year television deal with Disney. Ryan Coogler, of course, being the director and co-writer of Black Panther, the upcoming, and director and I think co-writer again of the upcoming Black Panther 2, Creed, Fruitvale Station, just kind of a generational talent, it seems like, based on his early filmography. So he signs this new television deal, is going to set to make some cool television projects that are going to be, made through Disney and presumably, go through Disney Plus, whatever. And one of those shows is going to be a series set in Wakanda.
Nice.
To debut on Disney Plus, specifically. So it's not, there's not a lot of information here particularly, other than Ryan Coogler, Wakanda, very
That's
much
all you need.
in the wheelhouse of things that he's already done and is currently working on. But to me, it makes perfect sense. It just feels like there are, especially obviously with the context of Chadwick, Boseman not being able to play the Black Panther moving forward. The Black Panther franchise is going to necessarily take a huge departure, go into a very different direction than it would have, I'm sure, otherwise. You know what I mean? So a Wakanda series feels like a natural kind of, offshoot of that, where you have, You might have a character take over the mantle of Black Panther, or they bring in a new character to do that. However they handle that situation, because they decided to not recast T'Challa, that's fair, you know what I mean? But you still have, you have the culture of Wakanda you could explore, you have the city, the technology you can explore, and you have a lot of these characters that you could bring in and make us, you could craft a series around. You could make a Shuri show, you could make an Okoye show, you could make... I mean, I think any one of those characters was so strong and so compelling in the first Black Panther movie that you could craft a television show that involves them or involves none of them, and I think it would still be equally compelling. So I think it's very exciting. As long as, we got to get our boy Ludwig Göransson in to keep the score going for this one.
Yeah.
And he's obviously not too good to work on Disney Plus television shows, so that's always a good sign too. But yeah, what do you guys think? Wakanda series? Any hopes, dreams, thoughts as far as what it could be?
I think you could do like a tribal, like the different tribes within Wakanda. You could do like a Game of Thrones, but within Wakanda with the different tribes. What do you think about that?
Like the more like political side of it. I was thinking of something like kind of like that too. There's so much you can explore, and like you just take like any of the comics and just take the focus out of Black Panther, and there's still so much there. There's just so rich. I think exploring the politics of it would be very interesting, especially if this is set like after Black Panther 2 and there's repercussions. Or if it's just set within kind of after the first Black Panther and it's still dealing with that, or maybe exploring some of the aspects of too, like Wakanda's now opened up its border more so than before, and like how does that affect it? So there's a lot you could do.
Yeah. A lot of
you could pretty much take it in any direction you really wanted it to. I mean, even as I was just listening to you guys, I was brainstorming, like, Andrew and I just bitched endlessly about the 19 Game of Thrones prequels that are being developed. But I was just like, maybe set this 100 years before, the events of Black Panther, and, you have a different era.
You could have a different Black Panther.
You still have a different Black Panther that you could center it around and have that be part of the story, Black Panther with still advanced technology, but, still, I don't know, think about like Wonder Woman and stuff like that, like how she was all powerful and during a World War I setting where, the technology is not where it is now. And obviously she's still more powerful than, modern technology because of her powers. But something like that where, the juxtaposition of a superpowered being with, even older technology could be interesting. Or you could do it, as you said, with something with Black Panther 2, presumably T'Challa being dead, missing, whatever the case may be in terms of how they handle that, dealing with the fallout of that, what that could look like, or what you could do. And what I was thinking might be interesting, just off the cuff, is you have 5 years where T'Challa is, snapped. And what happens to Wakanda for that 5-year time span? Like, what does that look like? And I'm sure we'll get some sort of context for what happened then in a sequel, but that seems like something you could explore in a TV show. And I mean, it gives you a 5-season window if you wanted to do a year-by-year kind of playbook. So anyway, they can do whatever the fuck they want, and whatever the fuck Ryan Coogler wants to do.
Exactly.
We defer to his judgment. We defer to him and Kevin Feige, because obviously they have been left with a very difficult situation with Chadwick Boseman's passing. But I think they're the right folks that are going to be able to figure it out, to kind of navigate the universe moving forward and still deliver quality Black Panther / Wakanda content. So it's exciting. I'm very curious to see what it looks like. I'm sure this is a post Black Panther 2 project for Ryan Coogler, so we won't see anything on this, I'm sure, for a few years, substantively, but
that's okay.
We do have Black Panther 2 to look forward to, and we have plenty of other fucking MCU content to look forward to as well. So they got to make up for lost time after a lost year in 2020. So yeah. 3 more things. More villain casting. Everyone's getting a villain. And Carol Danvers, Brie Larson's Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, is getting a villain for Captain Marvel 2. Zawe Ashton is going to be playing the villain in Captain Marvel 2. I'm not familiar with her. There's no, it's a kind of a vague thing where we don't know, what villain she would be in this. But hey, Captain Marvel's she's got to punch someone at some point. So
I need to watch Captain Marvel again. I can't remember how it.
How it ends?
Yeah, I can't remember how it ended. I know they saved they saved the aliens up on the ship, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of goes back to outer space. She leaves a little.
That's
Monica
right.
Rambeau.
That's right. And then she comes back for Avengers.
Well,
right.
She basically leaves for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we see her in a credit scene in Infinity War, and then Endgame. She's, kind of involved in the first chunk, I think pre-time jump, and then she obviously comes back and helps out with the fight against Thanos and company in the third act. But yeah, I mean, Captain Marvel 2 is I think it's a post-Endgame timeline. The first one took place in the 90s. It was kind of a prequel to everything else that we had seen, I guess, aside from the first Captain America. But it's modern day post-Endgame, so clearly some things are happening. There are things that happen in WandaVision that tie into Captain Marvel 2 as well, so we can dance around that for now. But clearly things are shaping out, changing, and Carol's she's gonna have some new threat to look forward to. So I wish I had more information to give you guys other than there's gonna be a villain in this movie, and the villain is gonna be played by Zawe Ashton. But I don't really have anything great to offer. I haven't seen a single film that she is in.
I saw Velvet Buzzsaw.
Okay. Yeah, she's credited for that. Nocturnal Animals is something I wanted to see and actually didn't. Other than that, some TV work, but like an episode of Doctor Who and some kind of one-off things there and stuff like that. But yeah, so I open it up to you guys. Captain Marvel is not a character that. Same with Moon Knight. I don't know so much about her particular villains that I could give you a laundry list of like options or anything like that. But do you guys have any thoughts about this before we move on to the next thing?
Yeah, I can't really picture it. I've read some Captain Marvel stuff, but it's not really coming to mind who it would be. I'm curious to see. Marvel's not shy about kind of picking characters that are they have a just like a playground of characters to work with, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get characters that are not the most traditional villains for one, but kind of one that makes it work within the story. So I don't know. I'm curious to see where Captain Marvel 2 goes. I think I get a sense that it's going to be obviously intergalactic, some scrolls, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see where it goes.
We'll see where it goes. That's totally fair. That's totally fair. All right, couple more pieces of news. Loki's coming to Disney Plus this year, and in fact, it's going to be coming on June 11th of this year.
Nice.
So a little later than originally announced. We were expecting it to debut in May, but that's okay. We will. Slight, adjacent news. The Bad Batch, Star Wars: The Bad Batch, is going to be launching on May 4th. So May the 4th be with you and such. So that's exciting, and then as a result of that, I think Loki kind of slots in afterwards. So
that's fine.
We have plenty of Disney Plus stuff to look forward to this year. Obviously, we talked about the slate on the 2021 episode that Andrew and I recorded and released a little while back. But we just finished up with WandaVision. We got Falcon and the Winter Soldier starting very soon. Star Wars will then follow that, and then we'll go right into Loki, and then we're still expecting Miss Marvel and Hawkeye later this year too. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Packed to the gills. Black Widow will come out hopefully in that time span too. Shang-Chi, Eternals later on. So,
and we're no stranger to delays.
There's a lot.
I mean, after 2020, what the fuck's a month?
I mean,
right?
They're suspiciously quiet on marketing basically all of their films. Which I'm does Black Widow come out in May? I think is still an open-ended question.
Very good question.
I would say. But I think the Disney Plus stuff seems like they're, there's no, as long as they've been able to finish filming these things, and I think that, obviously a lot of these things had production delays, but I think those have all been resolved. I think, hopefully the COVID protocols they've put in place have been, successful enough that they've been able to finish all these things. And so, when they're announcing streaming dates for all these things, I got to imagine it's because they're feeling good about the timeline. So I think Loki June 11th feels like a safe bet, and that's not that far away. It's
not that far. We've been doing the same shit for the past year. What's another couple months? But I feel like if you needed a reason to subscribe to Disney Plus, like 2021, like if you like Marvel, you like Star Wars, you like literally any kind of Disney stuff, like it's all there. This is obviously not a Disney Plus plug-in, although if they start sponsoring the podcast, we can certainly plug them in more. But like, I don't know, there's just so much content coming out this year. It's insane. I'm just glad we're getting some more MCU in 2021.
Getting a lot of it.
Yeah.
And Loki, I think particularly, is probably, it might be the most momentous of all the shows because it heralds the arrival of Owen Wilson into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Wow.
Something that I think everyone has been awaiting with bated breath for I guess over a decade at this point, So
I didn't know what I wanted until I saw it.
He really is. He really fits in perfect in there, doesn't he? Owen Wilson.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it also has Tom Hiddleston in it, I guess, for those that care about him. It seems like there's some people on the internet that seem to really like themselves some Tom Hiddleston. I just don't know why. It's because he's a very handsome man, I think. I think that's part of it. So anyway, Loki, June 11th. Look forward to it.
Look at fucking Owen Wilson. They just Google Owen Wilson. Just look at his pictures.
Do you want to can we start an Owen Wilson spinoff podcast where each episode is just an Owen Wilson film? We'll just work our way through his filmography and judge it on the wow factor.
You gotta get some sound bites in there.
Surely something like that already exists. Someone could look into it and get back to us. I should move on. Last piece of news. We had some jokesters over on the Spider-Man 3 cast who gave us some false titles for the upcoming Spider-Man 3.
You mean Spider-Man Home Depot?
Spider-Man Home Depot, Spider-Man Home Alone, Homeward Bound, Home Slice. Wait, no, that was one of the fake ones. Whoops. So, yeah, I think Tom Holland said it was going to be Spider-Man Phone Home. Jacob Batalon said it was going to be Spider-Man Home Wrecker, and then Zendaya later on said it was going to be Spider-Man Home Slice. Oh, and Jimmy Kimmel got on the fun. I think he said it was going to be Spider-Man That's So Craven, which was pretty good. But we now know that the upcoming Spider-Man 3 is in fact officially titled Spider-Man No Way Home. So, tantalizing title. What does it mean? There are some possibilities. My initial impression, personally speaking, is I like it. Obviously, it fits in the scheme that they've concocted with Homecoming and Far From Home. But it just seems to roll off the tongue pretty well. It sounds good. It feels good. What do you guys think about the title?
What are the implications?
Yeah. Is he in space? Is he in a different dimension? Why can't he get home? How does he get home? I don't know.
Is it because he's a wanted criminal because Mysterio outed his identity?
That could be it.
J.K. Simmons.
Or is it because he's stuck in another dimension and he's hanging out with Toby and Andrew, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So not you, Andrew, the other Andrew, the Garfield Andrew, the one that gets the big bucks.
Spider-Man variety.
Yeah. So I don't know, what is this movie? We still really don't know that definitively. It still very much could be a Spider-Verse thing, although Tom Holland, who's a notorious, leaker of things, the way they announced this title was very much a tongue-in-cheek way of playing on Tom Holland's capacity to tell things that he shouldn't tell. But I don't know. We'll see where it goes. We do know Doctor Strange is going to be in it. We know that he's going to be in a movie called The Multiverse of Madness. We know that movie is going to star a certain someone from WandaVision as well. So, lots of connections and angles that they could take with this one as well. So it's all very exciting, very tantalizing. I'm excited to see where it goes. And fortunately, we have about 9 months to wait, but it will debut in December of 2021, as they say, only in theaters. So one hopes that theaters are up and running by December, no problemo, but Sony seems very confident in that fact, so hopefully we can share in their confidence. But there were some first look pictures that came out along the fake titles as well, which just showed the trio of Peter, MJ, and Ned, and some undisclosed location, which some people, some internet sleuths have determined is somewhere we've seen in a previous film before. But anyway, final thoughts on Spider-Man No Way Home? I think probably excited for it.
I excite.
December 2021. We'll be here before we know it, I feel like.
Yeah. A lot of Marvel
so.
shit this year.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. If indeed, and the if I think is a very critical question to ask. If indeed we get the vast amount of content that we are promised this year, I mean, it's basically all the content we probably would have gotten otherwise for the most part, plus everything that we missed out on last year. So it just feels like, there's something to look forward to almost every week, maybe every other week, or something like that. So you hope that, you're so satisfied with the amount of things that come along that, before you know it, oh God, it's December and oh shit, Spider-Man's coming out, and we've had 4 or 5 Disney Plus shows, and we've had 2 movies that have come out. No, 3 movies that have come out prior to that. We're supposed to get 4 MCU movies this year. That's insane.
It's wild.
It's nuts.
One of those is a Sony movie, so it's kind of a weird side thing, but it's still part of it at the same time. So I don't know. Knock on wood that 2021 can deliver the goods, that it has promised us thus far. I don't think we can take another full year of just things being ripped from us.
Nope. And I got Christmas off this year, so I want me some
obviously
Spider-Man.
There are more important concerns than not getting MCU content. Like saving people's lives and stuff like that. Of which we have someone here on the podcast who does that. So it's not the priority, but we hope that we're kind of going back to a way of life that can hopefully happily embrace doing fun things again and not feeling guilty about it, and doing it in a safe and responsible way. So
yeah, we also enjoy some Spider-Man.
And Spider-Man's good. We like Spider-Man. So yeah. All right. Well, I think we actually made pretty good time on the news. How about that?
Wow.
It's a wonder for us, especially given that there are 3 of us recording. So I don't need to dwell on it any further. Let's talk about WandaVision.
Let's do it.
We'll have a lot to talk about on WandaVision, so I'm sure this episode will get padded out before long. But WandaVision is a Marvel Studios television show exclusively streaming on Disney+. Created by Jack Schaefer, directed in its entirety by Matt Shakman, starring Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, Kathryn Hahn, Teyonah Parris, Randall Park, and Kat Dennings. It's about Wanda Maximoff and Vision, 2 superpowered beings living idealized suburban lives who begin to suspect that everything is not as it seems. And so, obviously this is the first Disney Plus television show that we've gotten from Marvel Studios. It's coming off the heels of Avengers Endgame, coming off the heels of Spider-Man Far From Home. We're in a post-Endgame world where, things were pretty shitty for 5 years. They've kind of been resolved, but, things are still obviously not ideal. And, that kind of sets the table for where we find these 2 characters, which is interesting because, Wanda's in a very specific place and Vision's in a very dead place as of the last time we saw him. So what does that mean for this show? We'll talk about it probably more in spoilers, but as a general matter, I'll open up the floor for whoever wants to talk about it. It's been 9 weeks, it's been 9 long weeks, or I guess 8. They did put out the first 2 in the same week, so I take that back. It's been 8 weeks. It's been 2 months that we've been waiting to get the entirety of WandaVision, unfurled and unspooled so that we can enjoy all of it and get all the answers to the questions that they've been building for a couple months now. How did everyone enjoy WandaVision? Did they enjoy WandaVision? Was it worth the 2-month dive on it? What do we think?
Henry, you can start.
Alrighty. So I feel like, again, this is why I kind of like what Disney Plus does and has the episodes come out week to week, because there's something happening. And granted, the first 2 episodes came out in the same day, but everything is kind of happening each week. There's something new to talk about. There's a big cliffhanger here and there, and you're like, oh shit, I need to talk about this with other people. So it was so nice to see, when I booted up the first episode and you get the Marvel Studios logo, and it's like a new logo with new things in it, and there's like a new content there. That was just a good feeling, So I think regardless of what was going to come after, I was already kind of in a good place. But then I was left, I can't say pleasantly surprised, because I've always kind of come to expect something from Marvel Studios, but it was even better than my expectations that I had, I will say. We can get into more about maybe why, but I thought it was even better than I expected.
I'll echo you. In the I really appreciated the almost TV through the centuries kind of way they went through, or a TV through the decades kind of approach to each episode. I thought it was really creative. And I think that the way that the writing style that they had for each era of television also changed, which I thought was very creative. I think it's well acted. I think it's incredibly innovative. It's very different, but then it comes full circle, and then you once you get the grand scheme of things, it all makes sense. It's not complicated. You know what I mean? The beginning was I enjoyed it from a technicality and from the creative prowess behind it, but it was a slow roll. The first episode was a slow roll. One of my favorite things though is when the frame expands. I thought that was really well done.
Was very neat.
I thought that was really cool.
It does that a lot throughout the show because of the way that it intersperses kind of the modern, well, not really modern, technically a future setting, compared to where we are now,
right?
With the old sitcom-y 4:3 style. The aspect ratio change happens very frequently throughout to kind of accommodate the storytelling.
Yeah, it's I think the premise of the story is awesome. I think it's really cool. And I really appreciated getting more Wanda and Vision. Wanda is an incredibly complex character. And she's and
she's been through a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Very, she's troubled, and she's got a lot of power, and and learning, and I feel like she's always been learning herself as we've seen her on screen. She's never a Captain America, sure of herself kind of person. So I always found her character very nuanced, and it was really nice to get a complete exploration of her and what's going on with her. And it was intriguing to watch Vision, but for different reasons, which we can talk about that, I guess, in spoilers. I enjoyed the internet commentary about guessing who the villain is in the show, like on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was funny, and then what happened, and but there is one moment, one particularly badass moment.
A WTF moment, or
no? It just gave me chills when I saw it, and we can talk about it in spoilers.
All right.
Okay. All right. Setting up some threads of conversation. We'll have a lot to tackle in spoilers because this is a show that is very plot heavy, so.
Marvel's first live action fucking television show, and it was a major success. And that's I mean, that's really the point to drive home. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to wait long for their second live action television series.
Exactly.
We do not.
And if it is anywhere near the tier of this television, I'm really excited.
We're eating this year is what you're saying.
Yes. I can't say that I can. I don't know if WandaVision's for everybody. I can't say that it is. But if you're predisposed to Marvel stuff and you're already invested in the characters, I think it's a really cool approach to what they. I think they really stuck the landing on what they sought out to do. It's a coherent story. I think it's directed by the same guy, right? Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing, yeah.
And so I mean, it's one cohesive story, and it's good. It's a real good story. And the writing is excellent, and I think it was a creative tour de force. I use that quite a bit, but I think there's a lot of excellent things in this show.
So I do want to ask, because I feel like you have both hit on it, and to some extent, did you find that the show was hampered by the week-to-week format? I think Andrew, described it how it felt. You just used the word a minute ago and I already forgot what it was, so I apologize for that. But, you said you enjoyed the week-to-week speculating on the villain and stuff like that, but it is one continuous story that it does seem to tell. And so was it a frustrating experience waiting week to week for the both of you? Because I have heard it both ways.
In the beginning, I think, I don't know. Once I reached a certain point in the episode count, and once the story really started to get really intriguing and weird and everything else, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Gave you time to let it sink in and build up, what you think's going to happen, and it was a whole kind of experience. In the beginning, because I was slow to really get engaged with it, I think that's probably. I honestly think that's probably why they dumped 2 episodes.
Possibly. Yeah.
Just in order to try to set the hook.
Right.
But I do think I think the hook was set. I think after.
For me, by episode 3, I think I was.
I think the end of episode 3 is when it was hooked. So maybe instead of 2, they should have dropped 3 episodes, and that would have been what, an hour and a half.
Yeah, roughly.
Something like that. Yeah.
Drop an hour and a half episode pilot or whatever, or not pilot, but drop 3 episodes, and then from there on in, I would have been in for a week, and I would have been in week to week to week. But so that's my opinion on that.
Yeah. I mean, like in the beginning, you have no clue what the hell is going on. You're just like, this is neat, but what the hell is happening here? And but I feel like it really does work as a TV show, and this is why it's not a. I don't know, it's like 30 to 40 minute episodes, so it's not like a 5-hour movie. Like, I don't think you could certainly binge it, I think, but this is not a movie. This is definitely through and through a TV show, and it's, even has a TV show within the television show itself. And so I think it, more so than most other shows and like the Games of Thrones and these other like expansive narratives, like this is such a television show that for me it worked in the week to week, and it's so different too when you're jumping from 60s to 70s to 80s television that you get that shift. So I really enjoyed that. I thought it worked really well. Maybe I will agree with Andrew that it took a little bit for me to figure out like what's going on and like get fully hooked into it, but after that I was fully in. I always want to see more, but I'm okay like being teased and having to wait a little bit as long as it rewards me afterwards.
Okay, yeah. I just, I as it was airing, there's a lot of people, expressing their anger and frustration every time they saw "Please Stand By" on their screen. Just
like, damn it, I want more.
Yeah, and I felt that. I think I wanted more, but I also, personally speaking, was like, okay, I'm in for the ride. I'll see what they come out with next week, and we'll go from there and reevaluate and stuff. But and
it gives you something to look forward to at the end of the week. Oh, it's Friday night. I get to watch WandaVision.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly.
And that's novel.
Sure.
That's I mean, it's a novel, I guess.
It's cool. Almost going back to that, like anticipating TV, new TV.
Yeah.
Having said all that, if they had dumped it 9 episodes at once, would I have watched it in a weekend? Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm sure I would have enjoyed it just as well. And I don't know. It is interesting because I think it does. I can kind of see both sides. I think especially by the end of how it progresses, where I think particularly the first 3 episodes are individual kind of sitcom eras the episodes are pretty self-contained, obviously building on the same central conceit and hinting at things to come. And then come even like episode 4, it kind of pulls away and gives you a different perspective on events that feels like more like a traditional Marvel type thing that you're getting. And I think you get a bit of both of that, I think, throughout the remainder of the show, such that, if you were watching it, back to back to back to back to where, we're over the span of a few days, however you wanted to do it, the storytelling, I think, would work in different ways. So I appreciated, that the episodic, construct gave it, the ability to do different, spends on these sitcom eras and stuff like that. But, I don't know. I guess I also acknowledge the argument that, at a certain point, it kind of became a more serialized story, such that it kind of just felt like it was a movie getting chopped up into bits. Not quite Quibi style, but, bordering on that perhaps a couple times where, when it cuts off, you're just like, well, fuck, we needed more there. I wanted more there, or something like that. So just gonna wax philosophical for a minute, if you guys will indulge me. I fucking loved this show from top to bottom, from episode 1 to episode 9. I loved it. I enjoyed some episodes more than others. I think, it's because of the nature of the sitcom eras. Like, I kind of naturally enjoyed some versus others, more so. But I think that the creativity on display, I think Andrew alluded to that. I mean, I think that's evident from episode 1. I think it's pervasive throughout the show. I think it, exists and continues through the end of the show. And it's just a really well-written, well-crafted, well-constructed show, I think, overall, where I think each episode is kind of rewarding in its own way for either, setting up something intriguing or, eventually paying off that intrigue and resolving, things. It's a character study, and I think it might have been Andrew that you mentioned this as well. We're focused here on 2 characters from the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we've obviously seen, but have not had their own movies. And I think that we're looking at a relationship between 2 characters that we've seen glances of, but nothing explored with any sort of depth. And then, we're looking at, I think more from a top-down perspective, we're looking at, grief and trauma, in a way that we've never seen, the MCU explore that sort of thing with any sort of major depth. There's been loss, rest in peace, Tony Stark and whatnot. But Avengers Endgame is a blockbuster film, you know what I mean? And this is a show that has blockbustery elements, and I think they spent a fuck ton of money on it. I mean, this basically is...
It showed it.
In terms of production values, it's basically a movie, in terms of how they approach it. And obviously they have, pretty much all of these characters in this, with some minor exceptions, all debuted, and previous MCU movies, and just kind of came back for this show. So, they were talking about movie caliber actors that are, buoying the whole thing. But I don't know. I just felt like Marvel Studios realized this was a storytelling opportunity to do something in a different way than we've ever seen, and I felt like they really kind of utilized that to the full potential of exploring these 2 characters, particularly, who, as I kind of talked about earlier, are in very interesting different places. Like, Wanda is reeling from the death of Vision. And Infinity War, she was snapped. She was missing from 5 years, and she comes back, and she's involved in this huge conflict, and she almost single-handedly takes out Thanos, until he rains fire. But it's exploring what she's doing when she finally is now back into life, being able to process the trauma that she's experienced in her life, and this is the exploration of that. Vision, on the opposite end of that, is very dead as of the last time that we saw him. So he's back here. How? What does that look like? That's what this show kind of looks at and tries to explore, and I think it does successfully. So it's just really fucking interesting. It's really compelling. I think as a story, in general, I think the story that it tries to tell is just really well done and different than anything we've ever seen from them before. And I think, kudos are owed to Jack Schaefer, to the writing team, to Matt Shackman for bringing this to life. Kevin Feige, obviously, for, being willing to do some weird fucking storytelling on on a Disney Plus show, taking full advantage of the TV format and doing weird shit with it. Like, awesome. I love that. I love that the MCU has branched out from being more kind of generic type stuff to embracing the weird, embracing the out there shit. And, we're getting all sorts of crazy shit that we'll talk about in spoilers with this one, to say the least. But at the core, I think my last thing that I want to say in non-spoilers is this show, it works because of all those things, but at its core, it works because Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany are brilliant actors who, I mean, this is the first time I think that they've been given the opportunity to infuse these characters with as much depth as they are owed, as I think the story, gives them the opportunity to do so, and they relish in the opportunity. I think Elizabeth Olsen, particularly, who I'm fond of, I'm not going to lie. I think she's fantastic in this. I think we see Wanda Maximoff as a multifaceted character in a way that we've never seen her before. I think we see the depth of her grief and the depth of her trauma and how she responds to that in a way that I think explores that sort of thing. Again, that Endgame was there's a lot of grief that's explored in that. I mean, we see it through Thor, in that one. Particularly, we see it Captain America. Everyone post the time jump, we see it kind of with those characters, that survived the snap. And this is the first opportunity to do with someone who didn't survive the snap, but still had trauma before that, to the point where, like, when we saw Wanda get snapped, she almost seemed, like, content with it. She was happy with it. You know what I mean? Like it was a release, and so she comes back into this and she has to now kind of face all of that shit. And that's what WandaVision is. And then, so she just does it so wonderfully. She's just brilliant in this, and navigating the different eras and genres of sitcom and all those inspirations. She does it seamlessly, and she's just wonderful at it. And Paul Bettany too is a funny fucking dude.
Yeah.
He's an excellent actor who I think has been underappreciated, I think, for probably all of his career, honestly. And he's someone who, once upon a time, he was doing an uncredited voice role in Iron Man 1 as Jarvis. and you build all the way out to WandaVision, where he's, the co-lead, if you will.
Amazing.
And, I think he said something, I can't remember the exact details of it, but, he thought his career was basically over. And then, Joss Whedon, I think, not that we love Joss Whedon, obviously, but, Joss Whedon calls him up and says, "Hey, I want you to be the Vision in Age of Ultron." And I think that, maybe his career hasn't exactly, taken off, as a result of that. But certainly this character alone,
he was in Stargate, which is one of my favorites.
Okay, well, there you go. But this, I think there's so much nuance to Vision, who, if you want to look at him, from a, just a, you're not really thinking about a perspective like, he's a fucking robot, whatever, you know what I mean? But, like, Vision is so much more,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's such a fascinating character that I think going to the depths of exploring who this character is, obviously through the very specific lens that we see the character in through WandaVision, I don't know, he just nails it, through and through, whether he's, Vision looking like Vision or he's Vision looking like Paul Bettany, you know what I mean? It's all great. So those two particularly, not to speak ill of anyone else in this cast, I think everyone else is really, really good. But I think, this is a show about Wanda Maximoff and the Vision, and it's a show that could have lived and died by, its two leads, and it's to me, it's clear that these are two actors that really relished the opportunity to further their characters in this interesting way, and I think they have a great chemistry together that shines through the screen, and it makes the storytelling pop in a way that it probably would have done so anyway, but it does it in a really spectacular fashion overall. So I fucking loved WandaVision.
Yeah,
I fucking loved it.
No, man, same.
I like how one of my favorite things about the Vision is the constant questioning about what everything is, the constant evaluation of everything, and it's really cool. I think in this particular show, that's one of my favorite things about the Vision. What am I? What am I here for? What's my purpose? He's asking the most human of questions, even though he's synthetic,
not human,
right? And I guess it's perhaps what makes him, a living thing. You know what I mean? Anyways, but what's cool is there's a different aspect to him in the show, and it's the relationship he has with Wanda, what he could have been, given if he did not die. You know what I mean? What opportunities would he have had, and what he was capable of? Like I said, if he was present, and it really sheds a lot of light on the character. I really enjoyed his character, along with Wanda's. Wanda's seen some shit.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed her too. So, I'm with you, Colton. I really loved it.
Yeah, so I want to open up, an opportunity for any non-spoiler thoughts. We're going to have plenty to talk about in spoilers, so feel free to save thoughts until you can express them more fully if you so choose. But is there anything else anyone wants to talk about non-spoiler wise?
Well, I think you focus on Wanda and Vision is so right, because that's this show is WandaVision, and I think even more so, it's Wanda's show. Even more so, I felt like whereas we'll get into kind of who this version of the Vision is, and like how his thoughts are created and reflected. But Wanda was a character that I felt like really had to be explored at some point. Like, we've gotten, she's been in several movies at this time, but there hasn't been a Scarlet Witch movie. There hasn't been even a Vision movie. So the fact that we had these 9 episodes to fully explore both their relationship, but also just Wanda's state currently after losing her brother, losing the Vision, being wiped away for 5 years, and then coming back, and she just has so much power and so much youth. Like, how do you deal with all that? And we got to see like how, and I think there's a line later in the show where I think like someone says like, I understand why you did this. Like, if I was given the same choice, I would have brought back someone that I loved and cared about too. So it's very relatable, despite being this magical, super powerful beast of a character. Like, she's arguably one of the strongest Avengers. You play around with the powers and scalings and whatnot, but she might be like the strongest Avenger, depending. Like, you saw her go toe to toe with Thanos, and she was winning. So I think it's hard to do a show about a character that powerful, but also because of her power set, that lent it to a very interesting show. It's not just about just throwing out, power beams, but there's the magic and there's the psyche kind of within that. So I think that just made it really interesting, and I was just glad that we got to spend a lot of time in Wanda's head and see all of that.
Did we talk about Rambo?
Not really, no.
No. We get a lot on her too, and that's fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we'll talk about her in spoilers more so. But and I think a lot of we'll obviously talk about WandaVision plenty in the spoilers, but I think that, the kind of peripheral characters that it adds, are all really interesting. I think Monica Rambeau being one of them. I think Catherine Hahn's Agnes, I think she is a really interesting character in the show. Randall Park, being great as Jimmy Woo. Kat Dennings being great as Darcy Lewis, who's all grown up, and she's a fucking astrophysicist now.
She's that's Dr. Darcy Lewis.
So that's all very cool. So it's it's exciting to see these characters past the last point that we'd seen them, which we hadn't seen Darcy since probably Thor 2, hadn't seen Jimmy Woo since his introduction in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Monica we hadn't seen since she was a fucking kid in the 90s. So lots of really exciting territory that they explored, that sets the stage, I think, for more to come in the MCU, but also builds on characters that we've seen and shows their evolution in, I think, very natural and compelling ways. So I think we'll talk about them and then some in spoilers. And other non-spoiler thoughts. Should we get into recommendation?
Yeah. Let's do it.
What do we think? 5-tiered scale. Very yes, totally fine. Don't think I need to go below that, but fine and shithouse being the bottom two rungs. I know where I stand. It's probably not, hard to figure out, hard to guess at this point, but where do you guys stand? Where would you put WandaVision in terms of your recommendation? Andrew, you said it maybe isn't for everyone, but does that impact your recommendation in any way?
Yeah, so for me, it's definitely a very yes show. In scaling back, if I was going to recommend it to absolutely everybody, I would say it was a yes show. But my level of enjoyment was definitely a very yes. But I can recognize where it might be, where it could be difficult for other people to get into it, I guess. So, yes, very yes for me. I thought it was an excellent, like you said, character study of two superpowered individuals, but it's very much, in a lot of ways, it doesn't. Superpowers complement these people in the storyline, but it's not about the superpowers. They're for there for a while. So I mean, it's a really, really creative show, and that's what I think that's what I enjoyed most about it. So, but yeah, very yes for me.
No, I gotta say it's very yes for me too. And honestly, I didn't expect it. I thought that when they announced this was such a weird show, and I obviously trust the group at Marvel and Kevin Feige in particular to pick the right people for the job, but I didn't, again, I kind of mentioned this earlier, I didn't expect this to be as good as it was. I always have high expectations for these things, but it left me even more surprised. So I have to recommend it, and I think if you are at least familiar with the characters, it's definitely worth your while to go for it. Eastling is watch the movies, but doesn't, get into it as much as I do, and she thoroughly enjoyed the show. So I think that even if you're not a quote like superhero movie show person, it still would interest you most likely.
Yeah. Well, like I said, no secret for me, but I'll just say very yes on my behalf. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yes, I am squarely within the target audience, for this sort of thing, and I think that I think even, we talked about the listener's corner, my dad had seen the first few episodes, I think maybe the first 4, and, the sitcom-y thing was kind of throwing him off a little bit, but he seemed to enjoy it more when it started to turn into the more traditional Marvel territory. I think that, if you can make your way through the 9 episodes, I think that the payoff, I think, makes the journey well worth it. I really enjoyed the conceit with exploring the different decades of sitcoms. I thought that was just a really neat storytelling device, as I've talked about. But that might be kind of weird and like not what people are looking for. But I do think that when it hits, its stride of doing the more traditional thing, if you want to put it as such, I think that it still succeeds with all that, with flying colors. I just think it's such a really great start out of the gate for Marvel Studios in terms of taking these characters and putting them into television. So yes, if Falcon and the Winter Soldier, any of the other shows, Loki, blah blah blah, are even close to this, then we're going to be just fine this year, in terms of Marvel content. So yeah, very yes for me. So full spoilers for WandaVision. Andrew, I think I have to kick it to you.
Dude, I'm going to tell you.
What was it?
White fucking Vision.
Oh.
Yeah.
When they activate White Vision.
That was the moment for you?
So cold, so chilling, just so...
Yeah.
Ooh, he just looked like he was just going to kick some serious shit. He didn't really kick a whole lot of shit. He didn't.
It was genuinely unsettling to look at, I would say.
Yeah,
just the full blue eyes.
Off-putting.
Were really...
They nailed his look. And the way that they went about it, too, They went about activating him with the magic, the chaos magic, and everything else. I thought it was... I don't know why that worked, but I'm not trying to figure it out. He looked like a badass. And I really enjoyed the debate that the exchange Vision and White Vision had.
White Vision, yeah.
Yeah.
While they were floating inside the library. and they were discussing about, like, is a boat that's been completely rebuilt, is it still the same boat, and it just the whole thought experiment of that and the philosophy behind it. And once, I enjoyed how Vision won against White Vision. And then he says, like, if his main directive is to kill the Vision, and then at the end of the exchange, he becomes the Vision. Is he, where'd he go? Is he flying into the sun? Or is he, like...
Yeah.
Questions.
Where is he going? To be continued, I think, is the answer that we get from this show.
Interesting.
Yeah, we might as well just hit on that now. There are many things in spoilers that I think we'll want to kind of maybe try to parse out a little bit. But White Vision's, I think, a big part of that. He's, as of the end of the show, theoretically, he is the last Vision standing, right? And we don't know where he went. I don't know. I think the restoration of his memories, makes it seem that, it for me, it offers a glimmer of hope that, the Scarlet Witch, can have, some sort of reconciliation with this Vision, and maybe her, increased powers or development of powers, and maybe learning of powers, and Doctor Strange sequels to come, sequel at least to come, can maybe get her to a point where her and this new White Vision can kind of have a point where they become, WandaVision yet again. But
hopefully he gets a paint job or something, though. 'Cause that's just like, you can't look at that. It's just
it was
unsettling.
much better, they gave him kind of the more humanoid eyes, once he kind of got the memories back, and he looked much better. Before then, it was just like creepy killer robot.
Yeah, he's gonna fucking crush Wanda's head.
He's
like,
oh my God. You could hear some crushing sounds, and I'm like,
as an audience, we knew when he showed up to the scene and started talking to Wanda, I'm like, this is not going to end well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, no.
What else do I have? Oh, fucking the witches. That
was
the
cool.
witches.
The Salem witches. That was
sucking
neat.
all the life force from all of them. And
Agatha Harkness.
Agatha fucking Harkness, yeah. She was pretty...
The aforementioned Agatha, who it was all along, yes.
Yeah,
she was great.
She was great. I enjoyed her motive. I think she was a good villain. I enjoyed the military as a villain, too. I don't know if they were really... they're trying to get people fucking... Because she's enslaving an entire town, which is pretty shit. It's pretty shitty. But... I don't know. I think Agatha Harkness was a good villain. I think that it was incredible. The fight at the end, it kind of got DC-ish for me, with the floating around and just
a little, yeah.
But once the runes were revealed in the barrier, it's like, oh, that's why. And I thought that was pretty cool. Also, I thought it was badass when Agatha Harkness got slammed by that fucking car.
Yeah. And she just leaves the boots out.
You got the Wizard of Oz thing going on there. It was fun.
And what Wanda reading the Darkhold at the end of the episode.
That was pretty crazy. I heard some speculation about
magic.
That.
And there's, I just think some magic, and when people do cool magic, it's really freaking cool. When Doctor Strange does magic, when
like proper magic too, like getting like weird and
with the hands and the incantations that you have to say, and the lore behind it, and the runes and all the stuff. It really, I don't know, it's just a good scratch. And I'm excited to see what she learns from the Darkhold, which is pretty cool.
And presumably from the Sorcerer Supreme.
That's right.
That too.
I don't know. There's that movie show did a lot for Wanda.
Yeah, it did. Did a whole bunch for Wanda.
She got a new outfit too.
She got a new outfit, which is
cool.
She became.
She finally became the Scarlet Witch, and up until then, I was like, I guess they never called her that in the movies.
And they make a point of that,
Yeah, she's really always been Wanda. But now she's the real deal. She's a Scarlet Witch.
Which is, I guess, like a fabled thing. Like a fabled...
I don't think that's anything that we've seen in the comics, at least not that I'm familiar with.
Me neither.
To. I think they really wanted to kind of craft a new angle with...
I think that's cool.
Kind of how they developed her character and developed her power set. And I thought it was really cool. I saw people, I think, saying, it's a little... Phoenix-esque in a certain sense,
a little
like a prophesied thing, and it's like an entity or whatever. But I think it's different enough that it kind of stands on its own. And honestly, it's just fucking cool. So if we get any sort of Phoenix storyline, in the MCU, it's probably a decade away because they already fucked that twice. So I'm sure
I don't need to see
they're
it.
not in a rush to do it. If they do want to do it at all. I think this is it's awesome. Like, do something that feels really cool and really grand. And we know that Wanda has a ridiculous amount of powers, and I think this is a really good way of explaining that, and a good way of just saying, like, this is why she is as powerful as she is, and how she could be even more powerful. Whether she's learning a trick or two from the Darkhold or from Doctor Strange himself, or that sort of thing. Like, I don't know. It feels very cool that she's kind of this fated, prophesied.
That was neat.
Scarlet Witch, and it gives her the title. I mean, Scarlet Witch. I mean, honestly, like, I never really thought of Scarlet Witch as being like a super badass like character name or anything like that. But this show made it more badass for me, because of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Questions? Right. Can I pose a couple questions?
Sure.
Oh, I'm ready for questions.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Rambo's astrophysicist friend never made an appearance, right?
If they did, it would have been, Major Goodner, who shows up with the vehicle, the rover or whatever that they try to get through the barrier. That was kind of a nothing reveal for sure. There was a lot of... That was one of those things we talked about, the weekly speculation of, oh my God, is Reed Richards popping up in this show?
God damn it, that would have been freaking amazing. That would have been cool.
No, we're not ready for that. But
so
that
I never bought into that. I never thought that was going to be a thing to me. It just feels like, okay, they have the rights, fine. But, like, are they going to do it this soon? And are they going to introduce Reed fucking Richards, Mr. fucking Fantastic, and, a TV show? Like, I guess it would have been a pretty bold thing to be like, these are just as important as the movies, so pay attention, buckle up or something like that. But I never really bought into that. But the fact that it was so nothing was kind of just a little bit like, yeah, that's kind of the show's fault for making it seem like a an interesting mystery character that they're building to, and like it could have been like I don't even think that was a comic book character or anything like that. It wasn't like a obscure comic book character like some of these fans are going to enjoy this little obscure thing. It's just like oh no, this is literally just nothing.
Okay, so I guess that answers my question. Question 2 was I asked about the Vision flying off. We don't know.
I think to be continued. I think we'll get resolution on that front, but I think it'll be after Doctor Strange 2 would be my guess. I think that'll be a lingering thread for the next few years. I think the fact that they very specifically, and this is probably a big moment that we shouldn't just relegate to a footnote, but the fact that with the Hex closing, we lose the color, version of Vision, Wanda's version of Vision, and the twins. I think that those are things that will be addressed in a future installment of something, maybe even in Doctor Strange 2, perhaps.
And you can hear the kids screaming.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And Agatha kept saying, you don't know what you've done, blah, 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 blah. So apparently there must be more to...
Yeah, I think there's more. There's
definitely
to
more.
This, yeah.
I think the question is when we get the more. I mean, to me, I see Doctor Strange 2 as being a Doctor Strange movie, first and foremost, of course, where Scarlet Witch, starts to understand her powers more, and whatever she learns in that movie takes shape beyond that, such that maybe White Vision, you get the resolution of that, where maybe we get a version that's more of like a synthesized or a merged or version of White Vision with the Vision that we know and love, and that we kind of see in this one, Wanda's version of them, and we get resolution to the twins, kind of only existing within the Hex, within the reality that she crafts in New Jersey. Maybe they exist out of that reality. Maybe they can, once her powers are developed enough. I think that's all very much a to be continued thing, is how I view it. But
right,
anyway.
yeah. a lot of
I
speculation.
think you had another question that you were trying to get to. Sorry for the tangent a little bit.
No, I think that's I think it's pretty much all my questions. That's all I got.
Okay.
White Vision was a scary thing.
That was neat. Yeah. I feel like we got to talk about the Quicksilver in the room. The big reveal.
In the room, the Evan Peters in
Boner.
the room.
The Evan Peters.
Talk about the boner in the room.
Yes.
No, this is not a pornographic podcast. It's just a man named Boner. No big deal. There's an H in it, so it's fine. How did you guys feel about it?
Big reveal.
You know, from the reveal of, oh shit, Pietro's back and he's been recast, you know, as you know, Evan Peters, the Fox Quicksilver, as we've seen him, you know, a couple times. How'd you guys feel about it? I'm curious.
Obviously, it was a lot of teasing, right? Like, you could have brought back Aaron Taylor Johnson, assuming he wanted to come back, which would have been like, oh, okay, it's her dead brother, blah, blah, blah. Or if you're going for something different, you cast someone that looks like him, but like, you purposely choose the guy who plays Quicksilver in the Fox films for a reason. I think
it's because Fox boned the property.
Right, but I think now that it's within the MCU's rights, the big question I think everyone has, like, is this some kind of multiverse thing? Which turns out it wasn't. It was just a person that happened to look like him, kind of a lot of coincidence. So, I don't know. I guess maybe a little disappointed that we don't have the X-Men multiverse, but also I can see it getting really messy too, so I don't blame them for not trying to connect all the X-Men movies that have their own shit to deal with and just be like, let's just pick things that we like, you know, let's take actors that we like. Let's take J.K. Simmons from the Sony ones. Maybe there's a multiverse there. Let's take Evan Peters from the Quicksilver thing. So I'm okay with it. I don't think I was necessarily disappointed that it wasn't a multiverse fact, but it could have been a little bit more. Still very enjoyable. I really liked him in this, just being the wacky Quicksilver uncle, you know, character. So I enjoyed him a lot in this, I will say.
Did it work for you, Andrew? You know, I'm sure you're not overly fond of that Quicksilver. Although, you know, he had
that one scene which was pretty cool.
He had a couple moments to shine, I think more so in Days of Future Past than really in Apocalypse, where it was the most convoluted thing possible, but, you know, it is what it is. That movie sucked.
That was totally okay. It didn't bother me.
Okay.
The implications that they would have gone with the Fox things, the Fox thing would have been huge. It's like, what do you...
I mean, they're going to push into multiverse territory at some point. But,
right.
I mean, Doctor Strange 2 comes out next year. Hopefully.
Exactly.
Hopefully it comes out next year, you know what I mean? It was supposed
Doctor
to come
Strange
out...
the Multiverse of Madness.
It was supposed to come out this year, you know?
Right.
It was supposed to come out basically like within a few months of this show airing, you know? And obviously we don't have that, you know? We have to deal with it. We have to suck it up or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, you know, they could have knocked on that door here, or they could wait for a feature film to kind of knock on that door. And maybe they're doing it, you know, in Spider-Man, and we're getting Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. We don't know what the angle is, and you know, this could have been the introduction. It could have been a way to do it, and they clearly didn't want to do it for some reason. I wasn't bothered by it personally speaking. You know, I thought from the beginning, I kind of had a suspicion that it was really just going to be a tongue-in-cheek kind of, you know, nod or wink to the audience of just being like, what's this guy all about? You know,
his name was Boner.
And his name was Boner, you know, that was really, you know, I think this is the kind of thing that will piss people off because they're going to want him to be the Fox version of Quicksilver, who they may have preferred to the Aaron Taylor Johnson version. I mean, for me, I liked Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver. You know, it sucks that he got introduced and killed in the same movie, and that's kind of all we got from him. You know, when we didn't see Aaron Taylor Johnson in this show in any form whatsoever, although I guess maybe in the previous Leons, we probably saw him get killed once or twice, or you know, visions of that happening. But I don't know. I thought it was a really kind of clever thing that they did, you know, and I guess it could be interpreted as a fuck you if you're really gunning for like multiverse and bring in that version of Peter Maximoff as he actually is, you know, then fine. It could be something that is upsetting. But for me, I just thought it was like a fun, you know, again, wink and a nod. And Evan Peters was good. He was really fun.
Yeah.
You know, like he he really did well in that role, and it kind of felt like he was doing a more hyper realized version of that Peter that we saw in the X-Men movies. But I thought it was fun, and it was a great, for the talk of the week to week stuff. That was a good holy shit moment to kind of end the episode on.
Absolutely,
being like,
exactly.
Oh fuck, Evan Peters is on this. Like, I think it had leaked like less than a week before that, unfortunately, but there was something about Elizabeth Olsen possibly teasing a Luke Skywalker-esque cameo for this show, and it was all very misconstrued, basically, because that interview happened before Evan Peters had made his debut on the show, and it was basically like, can we expect some sort of holy shit hype level cameo that we haven't known about to this point? And like, it might have leaked at that point, but maybe she doesn't know that. Like, Elizabeth Olsen doesn't strike me as a person that's like fucking hanging out on spoiler subreddits and shit like that. Like, oh shit, Evan Peters leaked in this show, god damn it. Like, she's got shit to do, she's got other things she's worrying about, I'm sure. So for her to say yes is like thinking like, yeah, we kept this cameo super secret and tried to make it, like a really kind of like holy shit moment for the fans. And like, it kind of was. It still was. I mean, it wasn't X-Men, it wasn't Patrick Stewart or Benedict Cumberbatch dropping on the show or anything like that. But, it was still a big moment, and even though the payoff was basically just being like, got you motherfuckers, it's not actually, the Fox one. It's just we're just, toying with you a little bit. Like, I don't know, I kind of felt like that was a fun thing for them to do. Yeah. And, it doesn't cut them off from doing that in the future if they really wanted to. Like, clearly they're happy to work with Evan Peters. If they really wanted to do multiverse shit with the X-Men characters, so what if they look alike? You know what I mean? Like, they've reused actors, but we're going to see Gemma Chan, from Captain Marvel 1 to being fucking one of the Eternals. Like, okay, she's blue in one and she's not in the other, but like, fine. Like,
right?
They're not above doing that sort of thing. And like, it's a multiverse thing. Like, it's fine that people look different or look the same as other people. Like, it's not that big of a deal. They can still do it. It doesn't mean that they've cut themselves off from that opportunity. They just didn't want to do it this time. Or they and they may not just want to do it outright. And so be it. That's fine in my opinion. But
do you think Michael Fassbender was going to walk in there?
No thanks. I love me some Fassbender, but I am honestly done with those X-Men movies. Like,
oh god, never mind. I'm sorry. Oh no, that would have been wildly inappropriate. Trying to tell Wanda how to play the flute.
Go clean your room.
I'll do the fingering. Oh no! Oh no! It's a little too Ultimate Universe for my taste, in my opinion. But this show kind of definitively, says, that Wanda's parents are not, or at least maybe. I mean, again, they can write their way out of anything if they really want to.
Yeah, I mean, the comics.
It's clearly not being like Daddy-O is Magneto or anything like that. It's clearly not trying to trend in that direction. But they could do whatever the fuck they want in the future if they want to retcon stuff. I mean, I think this thing did a very specific...
This was a retcon.
This was a retcon in many ways. Yeah. Up until this point, we thought Wanda's powers came from the Mind Stone, from the experimentation with Hydra
solely.
And Baron von Strucker.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
This one basically says that she, had powers from the beginning, from the moment that we see in that kind of flashback episode where...
She was a witch.
She may have influenced the bomb not blowing up, with her and Pietro, hiding under the bed. She was a witch from the beginning. Some people thought, oh shit, maybe she's just a mutant. Maybe, there's no reason you can't go that route if you really want to at a certain point. It does make it a little weird in the sense that, like, okay, clearly the Mind Stone seems to enhance her powers to some extent. Like, it responds to her very clearly in that flashback that we see. Does Pietro get super speed because he's related to Wanda? Does the mind, how does Pietro turn into Quicksilver from that point? We don't really get an answer on that, but it's not important, really.
Nah.
Like, you could come up with a number of explanations that don't really defeat anything, and maybe it's just as simple as, the Mind Stone said, okay, yeah, good, you're good, super speed, man.
You're fast.
Here you go. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But I think it is interesting to see that, Wanda is more than just the manipulation of the Mind Stone and whatever, thing that resulted in her. I think that's a very interesting setup, and again, obviously ties into the mantle of the Scarlet Witch and all that seemingly entails. It's all very interesting, very cool, very exciting. So, yeah. What else do we want to talk about? Free reign, spoilers, WandaVision. Where do we want to go?
Do you have a favorite episode or like a favorite time period? You kind of mentioned that some sitcom genres like hit you a little bit more just because of your tastes.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Something I was going to pose to you guys at some point. For me, the Bewitched episode where they do the magic show for the town was one of my favorites. I thought that the humor there was great. Vision getting like the gum. He swallows the gum, drunk, and it basically makes him drunk. I thought was very, very entertaining and very funny. And I thought Paul Bettany was brilliant in that. And that's all pre the MCU goodness that we kind of see in the later episodes. But I just enjoyed that as just a fun send up of this particular style of sitcom with Wanda Maximoff and the Vision. It was just really fun. That might have been my favorite. I think overall, I think they are all were done pretty well. Like the Modern Family one didn't really do anything for me because I've never watched that show, but I got it. The mockumentary style. I think there's one moment where Vision is participating in the interview, and he's like, "What the fuck am I doing here?" He doesn't say that, obviously. He's like, "What am I doing?" He pulls the microphone off and just flies away. And Darcy's like, "Okay, I guess I'll just meet you there," or whatever. Yeah. It was very funny.
Office.
The
vibe
sitcom
to
humor
it
was
too.
really, really well done. I think throughout, regardless of the particular era that they were trying to go for. What did you guys think? Any favorites for you?
I like the magic show. I thought that was great. And I also enjoyed. I think it's in the first episode. Just the spontaneous, not spontaneous, but the snappy dialogue when it was in black and white. The way that I Love Lucy and stuff used to do. I really enjoyed that. But as far as episodes go, gosh. Which one did Monica, or not Monica, Rambo get her powers in? Was that 7? 8.
I don't think it was 8. Probably like a 7 or.
I think 7's right.
Yeah.
I think yeah, because that's when she gets the rover, and then she is unsuccessful with that attempt to get in, and she kind of pushes through, and you get that weird. It's very trippy visuals, kaleidoscopic visuals of her. Entering that, and her eyes kind of turning that icy blue, clearly, I don't know. This was cool. I mean, this functioned as a fucking origin story for Monica Rambeau, and so next time Auntie Carol, comes to town, or they meet up in space or whatever, as seems to be the way that this is going. I don't know. It's going to be a fun reunion, and clearly there's some bad blood there,
So, what exactly is her power set? What did she get? She got the powers from her DNA being altered by walking in through the thing too many times?
Yeah, what it seems to imply. Right, I don't know. It seems like everything kind of stems from the Infinity Stones.
The probability, because that's her whole thing, right? With Wanda,
probability hexes.
Yeah, so she went through and got changed too many times, so the probability of her being special, or not special, but superpowered, eventually changed her. Is that essentially what it is?
Yeah, I don't know if they go full probability hexes in the show, but I think you could view it something like that, where it's going through the hex so many times altered her enough in a positive way that gave her these powers. I know she's been different characters in the comics. It seems like they're going for more of the Spectre kind of vibe. It seems like she definitely has some kind of UV kind of vision
and
power.
She can change the density of her body, which was cool.
Vision-esque. I think it's energy absorption, and she can kind of change the energy in her body such that she can kind of phase through things, or things can phase through her. Obviously, we saw that with Hayward, who's a real prick, for the record, shooting her and shooting at them kids. He's just shooting at fucking kids at the end. That
fired
last
some
episode.
rounds at the kids.
This dude's going off the deep end.
He doesn't care. He's no fucks.
This dude's ready to pop some kids, you know?
Yeah.
He doesn't give a shit. He's like, they're fake reality kids. It doesn't matter. I can't get arrested for this.
That last episode, though, the last episode, I think is probably it was a touching episode. I cried during it. I thought it was very good.
Tyler fucking kids Hayward, as it's sometimes known.
Last episode was my favorite. Made me cry.
Oh, yeah?
Super touching.
Favorite episode. Well, all right. Well, Henrique, I'm going to turn the question around on you. What was your favorite sitcom era before we talk about some favorite episodes?
Oh shit!
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I jumped the gun.
That's okay. We got your answer to both.
No.
We'll just sidestep you.
That's tough.
We'll have a conversation all to ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like familiar with all the different eras, but I've only seen like a little bit of I Love Lucy, and then like when you get to like 50s, 60s, 70s, even like 80s, I can't say I've watched that many like 80s television. So it's not until it gets into like the 90s, 2000s that like, oh, I recognize like what this is kind of going for and whatnot. And it was still nice to see just the vibe from like 70s and 80s ones where it's a lot of real like big like just kind of disco vibes, weird colors, like the pants, and then the 80s just with the hair, and then kind of leading into the 90s. So maybe like the 90s episode possibly, just because that's kind of what was most familiar to me. I definitely like recognize a lot of the 2000s stuff, but that other episode was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, the Halloween costumes were pretty great.
Yeah, that just looked cool.
Mm-hmm. Sokovian fortune teller, aka I saw Scarlet Witch in a vision once upon a time, and I just thought I'd craft a costume out of this, a lo-fi costume of it.
Look at Vision's wearing like the pants on top, of, like the little tiny shorts on top of it. It just looks so goofy, but also it's kind of perfect.
And they gave fake Pietro.
Pietro, he had this he had this
Quicksilver
whole
classic shit.
Yeah,
you know,
that was great. That was a real nice nod. That was a real nice nod.
Yeah, it was fun. Well, before I answer a question about favorite episode, I'm gonna ask another question. We're gonna go to a different place. What was everyone's favorite commercial that we got?
The fucking yogurt
from the sitcoms. Yo Magic.
Yeah, the fucking yogurt. The kid rotting away on the beach.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, I forgot about that one.
How did you forget about that one? That was ridiculous.
That was really good.
Fucking kid rotting away on the beach. Jesus.
I felt like, most of them were pretty on the nose in terms of what they were about. That one was the one I think that in the moment I'm like, what is this getting at? And then I think, having seen the full show, it feels like it's very much getting at, Agatha draining powers from the other witches from Scarlet Witch in the finale. Like it feels like very much like a taking yo magic kind of thing. At the time I didn't get that though, but that one was pretty like I don't know, because it still fit the vibe, because that was I think the 90s one. That was the Malcolm in the Middle one, I think, and it kind of felt like an extreme 90s commercial a little bit. And it was like, oh shit, this fucking kid or whatever on this island just got completely sucked to the bone, or whatever.
Yeah,
so it was like, pretty fucking crazy. Yeah, that was a good one. Okay, Henrique, what do you think? Favorite commercial?
Damn, until you said that one, I was thinking of the Hydra.
The Hydra soap?
Was the Hydra the one with the soap?
The soap, yeah. The bath powder one, yeah.
I'm just like... And then I'm like,
Hydra soak.
Yeah, I was like, wait, is Hydra like somehow more in this? And I was like, okay, I think it's like more her connection to Hydra. But that one stood out to me just because it made me think like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
The toaster
Toaster one was pretty hardcore. I mean, that one was,
beep,
we got
beep, beep.
We obviously got a payoff to that. I mean, I think that one, the Age of Ultron reference, I think was fairly apparent within the episode itself. But I think, when you see that moment actually, through the flashbacks and in episode 8, it definitely made that one hit a little harder.
That's true. Yeah, I guess it wasn't as funny. It was funny watching the expressions when the fucking toaster kept beeping.
Yeah, I don't know. They were all pretty like, oh, the Lagos one, the paper towels, just soaking up. Like, I was just like, this is uncomfortable. Strucker watches. I don't know. They were all pretty good. I can't pick a favorite, but the Yo Magic one I think was the most well done. Just the claymation type thing, just felt so era appropriate, and just was just like a what the fuck did I just watch kind of thing. It was good stuff. So favorite episode. Should I go ahead and answer that?
Go for it.
That's a tough one for me. Ah, shit. I mean, the finale was pretty bomb. You know, there's a little bit of recency bias with it and seeing it. Shit. Yeah, it might be the finale, I guess. You know, I think there's a lot of great episodes, and you know, and like 8 and 9 kind of drop the sitcom pretext and just are very much just, you know, content from start to finish. I know, I think 8 does a great job with kind of, I don't know, maybe I think 8 might be my favorite. You know, 9 is obviously the resolution and, you know, some action shit with some punchy stuff between the Visions and Wanda and Agatha, and you get the fucking Scarlet Witch costume reveal and shit. And it's all super badass. But I think 8, you know, it shows who Agatha is after we know that it's Agatha all along. And then I think seeing kind of the moments throughout Wanda's life, culminating in that moment, you know, when she drives to New Jersey. You know, we see her going into the sword facility, and you see this disassembled Vision that's super fucked up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just fucked. Absolutely fucked. And Hayward's just like, you're here to revive him or whatever, right? And like, this guy's a fucking asshole. Punch him in the head, you know what I mean? But like, you know, and until that point, you know, we you know, I think the show very specifically is kind of like being like, you know, like Wanda's kind of a villain, you know what I mean? Like, oh, she did some bad shit. Like, it kind of frames it in such a way that we think that she probably stole Vision's corpse and brought it back to life. And we find out in episode 8 that no, that's not the case at all. You know, she saw, you know, his body in sword custody and was just fucking, you know, traumatized by it and pain. She drives away. You know, we see this little document kind of in the passenger seat, and then she ends up in this plot of land where there's nothing there, and she looks at it, and it's a fucking deed, you know, signed by Vision with a little heart saying to grow old in together. Man, that was just fucking
super sad. Yeah,
that was just tragic, and that's, you know, how the hex starts, and that's how everything begins. You know, just getting the answer to the how and the why. I mean, the why was pretty obvious. Like, yes, Wanda is someone who lost her parents at a young age in a very traumatic experience. So traumatic that she turned to fucking, you know, Nazis basically as an answer for you know, and a cry for help. And she had this experience that we see with the Mind Stone, like bonding with her and like recognizing her and amplifying her powers, as we find out, to turn around and be a villain towards the Avengers, only to be taken in by the Avengers and, you know, and Clint Barton, and then to be accepted by Captain America and still, you know, feel grief, you know, in the Civil War when she's trying to do the right thing, be part of the Avengers, and she's trying to contain like a gas explosion, and she redirects it, and it kills fucking, you know, people from Wakanda, you know, in a building that, you know, just were, you know, there trying to, you know, do good in the world. And, you know, she's lost her brother. She loses Vision. Not once, but twice.
Dude, we saw
of Infinity War. She kills Vision herself.
Vision's died
only
so
for
many
that
times.
To be rewinded, you know, such that Thanos can just brutally fucking rip the stone out of his head right in front of her face, so that when she gets snapped and fucking disappears from reality for 5 years, she feels, you know, like relief in that. She's like, you know, that's release, you know. It's just, I mean, goddamn, you know, one person should not be subject to such trauma, to such grief, and to see, you know, that manifested. You know, I think episode 8 is probably going to be my answer, because it shows everything. It shows the how and the why, and you know, that episode doesn't work without the preceding, you know, 7 episodes, sure, but yeah, just hits so fucking hard, and then you end with a holy shit punch of "you're the Scarlet Witch," or, you know, whatever the dialogue was just like they said the thing, you know. I don't know. Episode 8's my pick. I'm going on a limb saying episode 8.
Okay.
So, Henrique, what do you think?
No, I think you took my pick. I was thinking about it. Did
not mean to steal anyone's thunder.
My honorable mention was gonna be episode 5, the 80s one. We're still kind of in the sitcom area, but episode 8 was so great. It was so focused on Wanda, but I think the part that made it extra special was you just got a lot of Catherine Hahn's Agatha Harkness. You know, it literally starts off in like 1600s or something, like Salem, Massachusetts, with like witches and stuff. I'm like, ooh, I'm in. Like I'm in on this, and that was a cool vibe, and she was great. I mean, even
she was so great.
If she had been just the nosy neighbor, it still would have been a good role. But I'm glad they had more for her.
I'm glad they didn't kill her off too.
Yeah, that's true. She's there, and clearly left in a way of she even asks, what are you gonna do? And then she's like, I know where to find you.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that she is now one of the villains in the Marvel Universe, and seeing the backstory and how everything tied together, it all made sense. I think it's hard to kind of retcon things that have come out many years ago that were written by different people. It was a different director. It wasn't even a show, it was a movie, but I think it incorporated it really well and was still able to make it fit the show. I was wondering if they were going to go the route of like, you're a mutant all along, but they didn't, and I think that's fine. Like it fits within what the MCU created. It just kind of explained why Wanda's so powerful, and it did it in a really cool way. All the recaps through her life, in kind of a studio audience way. Sometimes it kind of takes a step back and like it's all happening in a studio. So that was really neat, just the way they did everything. I got to go with episode 8 too, but episode 9 did end very well, pulling at the heartstrings for sure.
Yeah, pulled the heartstrings pretty hard.
We haven't really talked about the twins, Billy, Tommy. Billy and Tommy. I thought they were fun. I think they were. I think it was interesting to give Wanda and Vision this family unit, and it's inspiration from the comics. Billy and Tommy. I'm just calling him Billy Tommy. My brain is broken because in Animal Crossing there's Timmy and Tommy. And I just collectively refer to them as Timmy Tommy, because they're basically we did the same thing.
We did the same thing.
So I'm just calling him Billy Tommy for the sake of this podcast. But I appreciated that they developed this family unit, and I don't think this is the last we'll see of Billy Tommy. Even though obviously with the disappearance of the Hex that they disappear along with Vision, but I think that those final moments that we see between Wanda and Wanda's Vision, in that living room setting were really, really beautifully done.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. And that reminds me, actually, another point in episode 8's column is that scene with Wanda and Vision and her bedroom, and,
Very
really touching on her grief and talking through that and openly expressing that. And Vision, is Vision. He's a curious synthezoid and one who I think seeks to understand humans and recognize that. And even though he himself can't feel some of those things in some ways, like, the line of what is grief if not love persevering, I think, I don't know, it just felt like a very Vision-esque line that I think just fit the moment perfectly. I don't know, it was just really, really touching, and I think that the through line of this whole show, from episode 1 to episode 9, is that the love that is shared between Wanda and Vision, obviously that was shared between Wanda and Vision, before Vision was killed, it still exists. Obviously this is a version of Vision that is born out of Wanda's grief. He's the essence of the Mind Stone that's within her, or something like that, as they kind of say, but this is a Vision that's devoid of all the memories pre-Westview, New Jersey, but still quintessentially Vision at its core, because, she knew and she loved, Vision. So even though this isn't exactly the true Vision, it's still Vision.
So did, whenever Vision touched White Vision's head, did he unlock the memories of the old Vision?
I think that's the understanding I took away from it. Yeah,
you just restored it. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of a, the realization. No, I am Vision. And just kind of flying away is probably just being like, wow, my data banks are being flooded with information. I got to do something with this information, and we'll figure out kind of how that resolves itself. I don't know. That is to be continued. People were speculating. Is there some Ultron still in that programming? You know what I mean? And maybe that's a thread they pull on in the future, and we can get some Annihilation conquests in a decade or so, or something like that. But
we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. So, is there anywhere else that anyone wants to take spoilers? I think we've tried.
Yeah.
We've definitely jumped around a lot. I think we kind of started at the end and kind of worked our way backwards a little bit. But
I have very few criticisms of the show.
Anything's open to criticism. I want to hear it.
I thought, as good as how the last episode ended, I thought that parts of it, kind of how you mentioned, Andrew, got into maybe like the early MCU, if it's like people just like strong people shooting beams at other people and throwing lasers for a little bit. It didn't last too long, but I feel like it was, kind of a big jump away from what most of WandaVision was, which was like creative, like manipulation, and like battles were fought in the mind and through actions and not just throwing beams at each other. But then it did get creative with the hex and everything. So I don't think it was a huge criticism, but I think if anyone is kind of like, I'm less into the superhero part, probably would have been taken out of it a little bit.
And see, I think the cool thing about the fight with the beams, I think once Vision realized Vision was fighting Vision. Yeah,
it's like, well, like, why are we, like, they're both going to be equal, right? So it had to be a philosophical fight.
Yeah, which was...
I think it was a really creative resolution of that.
Yeah,
right,
and
definitely.
The thing I liked is that, that episode basically picked up right where episode 8 ended, and it started with a bang of everyone's just like, well, fuck you, let's fight. And then White Vision comes in and it's like, well, fuck you, let's fight, And so you get like 10 to 15 minutes of that. And like you do get kind of some beams shooting at each other throughout the sky a little bit throughout the episode. But like, the Vision versus Vision stuff is probably the first like quarter of that episode. And then they're just like, well, let's talk this shit out. Like, what's going on here, a little bit. And I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
And even with, even though it did, I think I see the criticism, I think particularly with, red versus purple magic flying at each other through the air. It's at least not gray versus black, which is probably what it would have been in the DC version of it.
Oh, God.
Well, we got Justice League
to
to
watch
watch
in a colorful version of it, but I can't wait. But I think that even the resolution of that was still creative, and it kind of turned into something interesting by the end of it. But I see it is absolutely a departure from what came before. I agree with that.
It just seemed like a shift, and I would say the only other thing that I could think of was I was hoping for a little bit more resolution in Monica Rambeau's story. I feel like she gets a really cool intro and origin, and she doesn't get enough to do kind of in the last couple episodes. I was hoping for a little bit more, but it's clearly setting up for more right later.
Yeah.
So
with her for sure. I think that's true too of the real trio that they kind of set up with her and Jimmy and Darcy. Like, they really don't do a whole lot in those last few episodes.
Yeah.
Like, Monica goes into the hex and like meets up with Pietro, but then that kind of, it's really kind of not.
She gets kind of
really
stuck.
Do anything super consequential. Like, there's a little bit of dialogue at the end and like fine or whatever, but it doesn't really pay off in some huge consequential way. Jimmy, is a competent FBI agent who has learned magic. Good for him. But Darcy has a heroic moment of fucking trucking Hayward at the end, but she really doesn't have a lot of dialogue or anything like that. So enjoy prison, I think, is what we get. But those three kind of get a little bit sidelined because they kind of aren't the focal point after a certain extent. They're good to set up like how Sword is viewing the sitcom, that Wanda is kind of sending out, or where Agatha, I guess, is sending out, or however that kind of works. But I think they do kind of get sidelined. I mean, it's very much another to be continued, I think. Monica specifically, who knows when we'll see Jimmy and Darcy pop up. I mean, maybe Ant-Man or something like that. But, clearly Monica's storyline, we see a fucking scroll.
It's a lot of setup.
One of the mid-credits saying, a friend of your mom's, which I guess could be Fury, could be Talos, probably one of the two, I would guess.
Yeah, probably based on the shows coming out.
Wouldn't it be fucking Captain Marvel?
I feel like that's an obvious one, but
Yeah, I guess it could be. Yeah, I mean,
her mom was best friends with her, right?
yeah, definitely.
oh yeah, a friend of her mom. So yes, it would be Captain
it
Marvel.
could still work.
Yeah, no, you're right. That makes more sense. Way more sense. So,
I guess it could be any of those other people you're talking about. That's who I thought it was, anyways.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. Captain Marvel would be the obvious one. So, anyway, we know she's going to be in Captain Marvel 2. There's no secret about that. There's no bones about that. So we'll definitely see her there. And I think that, this kind of did serve, I think, in some ways as just an origin story to give her powers and kind of introduce the grown-up version. She's very, very capable, and very competent. And, now we're going to see her, reunite with Carol and see what that entails.
And I like fucking Darcy.
Darcy was really funny. She was great. She was great.
And I like Woo. Jimmy Woo.
Woo was fun too. Yeah. The one thing I was going to note with Monica particularly is we do get the one scene when she snaps back into existence, and it comes after Maria.
Yeah, that was
after
crazy.
Maria has died of cancer. I mean, that was just really, really heartbreaking to kind of see. The chaos of everyone kind of snapping back into existence and what that means. And it's like, obviously in the end game, it's a heroic moment for Hawke, to bring everyone back, but certainly the chaos of that all happening. We saw a little bit of that in Far From Home, but it was kind of played for comedy, where it's just like the band members coming back in and crashing into each other and stuff like that in the gymnasium. Here was just like in a hospital setting, was just really, really like, it was really awful to kind of witness, like the chaos of it. And like, great that they're back, obviously, but to lose 5 years of your life without even realizing it, and to lose your mom, in that span of time.
They didn't
really
lose.
Tragic.
They didn't lose 5 years of their life, did they?
Not of their life,
but they missed 5 years.
5 years of their life.
Time,
right?
Yeah,
okay,
you know what I mean. Like they're not 5 years older when they come back. They're still the same.
But everyone
age,
else,
whatever.
but everyone else
has gone.
Exactly.
And 2 years into that, her mom died, and she would have been there. And that would have been awful to experience anyway, but to just completely bypass that experience and have to grapple with the shock of finding that information out like 3 years after it happened, just been gone for that time, is just really, kind of unfathomable. So anyway, fuck off, Thanos.
Fucking asshole. Him and Hayward should hang out.
Yeah, him and Hayward hang out in prison, although Thanos is a little too dead for that, I suppose. But
remember when they chopped that fucking dude's head off?
That
was oh man, that was awesome.
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah. Good shit.
That's so brutal. I never saw that coming.
No.
I remember when I first watched it, I was blown away. I'm like, holy shit.
All right. Do we have any final spoilery thoughts on WandaVision? I think we've had a pretty exhaustive conversation. I'm sure we've missed things here and there, I guess, admittedly, but I do think we've done a pretty good job of kind of covering our bases in a topsy-turvy order, if you will. But any final thoughts?
That's it.
Yeah, no, overall, really great show. If this is the level that Marvel Television is going to be at, sign me up. I think, if anything, Falcon and the Winter Soldier have a lot to live up to after this.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll just have to reconvene in a couple months and talk about it. What do you think?
I think we will have to do that. It's our duty to do that.
Okay. WandaVision. You heard it here first. Probably not. Probably didn't actually hear it here first, but you heard our thoughts here first. If nothing else. So, Andrew and I talked pretty recently, so I think it's probably appropriate if we hand it over to you, Henrique. Have you watched anything recently, been playing anything recently you think is worth talking about?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm trying to catch up on some stuff, that I've wanted to see. I'm still behind. I think I mentioned that. For no particular reason, I just haven't gotten around to Trial of the Chicago 7. But I'm kind of planning to, and I don't think they've released the Oscars list yet, but I'm figured, based on Golden Globes and stuff, like I want to see kind of the best movies that people thought of the year. So that's one on my list. But I did see Minari a couple weeks ago when A24 had a bunch of screenings, and that was great. I've probably put it at the top of my list for 2020, even though I watched it in 2021. However you want to rate it, it was one of the best films that I saw. Just a little bit, in some ways, kind of like Roma, just a very personal story, but less technical and more personal, I guess. Even though maybe not personal to them, but just like you really feel the characters a lot. Like you really like get each character, and they're just great just movie to live in. So highly recommend that one. I know you all just covered Judas and the Black Messiah. Also one of my favorites so far of 2021 that I've seen. That was amazing. Let's see. I was talking to you about the ending of Promising Young Woman, because we did watch that.
Anna looked at the you had kind of quoted Aislinn and her thoughts on the ending of Promising Young Woman, and I think she 100% agreed with the sentiment.
Yeah. It's like, I love the marketing for it, and I still love the premise and all the stuff, but exactly like you said in the previous episode, the way that it ended, really, I didn't love it. It's just, it didn't. I don't need to get into spoilers for that movie, but it just didn't feel like a victory. It just very, I don't know. I don't need like a perfect revenge story, or like everyone comes out in the end. It doesn't need to be a very typical like rape revenge, but my biggest takeaway was like, this is too realistic. This is too like real life, and I don't know if that's how we needed it to end. But Carey Mulligan was great. I think there were some great things in that movie. Just, I agree with the ending. Not how I would have chosen to go about it. Yeah. Let's see. We started watching a new anime that I don't know if I can recommend. I think it's good. It's very entertaining. But so we made some Japanese curry the other day. And we're like, let's watch some anime. And we're scrolling through Netflix. There's something called Food Wars. I'm like, it's an anime about food. Very appropriate. There's also a lot of nudity in it.
Nice.
Which you wouldn't expect for an anime about food, but it's like a central theme to the show. It's not just like a Dragon Ball Z, like someone just like flashes someone in an episode. There's like a lot of like boobs, but there's also like butts, and it's like female butts, male butts. There's just a lot of butts. People are naked a whole lot.
Just butts.
Literally in the first episode, I texted my friend because there's like a quasi tentacle porn scene in it, and I'm just like, what are we watching?
What is this?
What are we watching? But if you can get past that, it's a pretty good show. It's kind of like Iron Chef meets like My Hero
porn.
meets
Lots of
meets High School Academia meets like some weird softcore porn. Aside from that, it's pretty good.
Netflix, you said?
It's on Netflix because it was rated TVMA for nudity. I'm like, why? And then you get into it like, okay. So why the nudity is that it's like a very competitive high school, a culinary high school, and when people eat a really satisfying dish, they basically just have like an out of body orgasmic experience. And then it kind of translates into like them being naked with like food around them, and that's kind of how it plays into it. It's actually a pretty good show, though.
Interesting creative choice.
Food, yeah, very interesting creative.
For it to take place.
Very Japanese. And that's the thing about a lot of anime. You're like, why are we looking at this person's boobs? She's like 16. Like, no, what is going? Why?
It's not right.
But it's a pretty good show. So if I can't say I necessarily recommend it, but
I don't think I'll watch that one.
I don't know. I will say if Sarah catches you watching on the big OLED, she might have some questions
She comes home tonight and I'm watching food porn.
She might have some questions for you.
Henry recommended it.
If anything, it's better to watch it on the big screen. It makes it less suspicious than watching it on your laptop.
It's true.
Put it on your iPad and just turn it off as quick as you can when anyone walks around. No, Mom, it's not porn.
It's on Netflix.
It is on Netflix. Oh god. We're maybe halfway through season 1, so we keep watching that.
Beyond the point of no return, you had to finish it.
Yeah. No, I think we're hooked now.
The Raised by Wolves conundrum.
Yeah. No, but this is actually good. It's just very weird. You're like, it's just kind of weird.
Not bad and weird.
The story is actually pretty good. Yeah, it's just like weird. And I've seen this before, but I'm gonna watch it again tomorrow or Monday, I guess. The Netflix documentary 13th, because we've been doing I don't want to call it a journal club because it's not necessarily journals, but we've been doing a discussion series, and this month is going to be on that documentary, kind of the American like prison complex. So I need to rewatch that movie to refresh those thoughts and join in the conversation. So, but that is one that I recommend for anyone who hasn't seen it. I think that's most of the things. Yeah, just because last couple of weeks we've been working a lot, so trying to get some other stuff in the meantime.
All right. You been doing anything, Colton?
I saved, it's not been long since we recorded, but I did save a couple things to talk about for this episode in particular, because Henrique would be with us. I finished The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
I cracked all 1,000 pages of it. It took me 3 to 4 months, roughly speaking, but it breaks my previous record of reading that book in about a year's time. So
it's a big book.
It's a big book. I have a few more big books to get through for the Stormlight Archive. Not there yet. I'm taking a break from it at the moment. Talk about that on some other episode, I'm sure. But I loved it. It had been long enough since I read it. I knew broad strokes, but like the last 100 pages were just like, I don't remember any of this. Throughout the entirety of the book, I just kept envisioning it as like a TV show or something like that. Like I think Brandon Sanderson does just a great job of describing action. You know what I mean? Like I think he's a very action oriented writer. I think someone like George R. R. Martin is very descriptive and very about the color of this grass and and all that sort of stuff and the smell of it and all that stuff and I think Brandon Sanderson is very much just about getting you from point A to point B to point C, and I think he's still tells a very compelling story while doing that, but it's very descriptive in terms of the action and getting you, I don't know, on board with these characters and kind of the action that happens along with them. I just found it to be a very compelling read. It took me as long to read it because it's just a long fucking book, and it's a big hardcover, and the pages aren't small or anything like that. But it's really good. It's the kind of book that I wish I had, more free time that I just dedicated to reading, because my problem is I'm like, well, I could play Spider-Man on PS5, or I could play Demon's Souls, or I could play The Last of Us a little bit more, or I can watch WandaVision on TV, or I can watch the 90 other movies that Netflix is putting out and whoever else is putting out. And it's like, carving out time for reading, I think is kind of hard for me sometimes, but it does become really worth it when you get sucked into something like that. That's just really, really good. And I think it was helpful having some previous experience reading the book, and understanding kind of the lore and the magic systems and stuff like that. I think that he sets up makes it a little bit easier to kind of sink your teeth into it, on a second time through. But it was really, really great. Really awesome book. Highly recommend it.
You got the second one?
I have all of them. I have them all sitting on my shelf. So I do want to pop open Words of Radiance at some point in the near future. I'm taking a break from it right now to read something a little bit more that's lighter fare, at least lighter fare in terms of getting through it at a quicker pace. I do want to keep reading, and once I start Words of Radiance, we're getting into brand new territory for me, and there's 3,000 plus pages of content that's waiting for me. So God knows that will take me a long, long time to get through, but I do want to do it. And then, of course, Dune is also. I got a really pretty copy of Dune that I sent a picture of.
Yeah, we got to read
to
that,
you guys. So I want to read that before the movie comes out. So I got grand hopes and dreams and stuff like that. And, I still have school to finish and a bar exam to study for. So I got shit on my plate, but I do want to do a better job of setting aside time to read, because it really can be rewarding. And so I regret that I'm not as good as reading. I'm not as good at reading as I would like to be, because it really is something that I do enjoy when I allow myself to. And In the Way of Kings was just something, I feel proud of myself. But maybe it's a little self-congratulatory, but I read a 1,000-page book, and that's something to be said. So it was cool.
Yeah.
I'm staring at my copy. I got a big old copy of it right there. I've had it for like 6 years. I've never looked at anything other than
it's a great one.
Read me, Andrew.
That one I read most of it, and then I kind of finished it on audiobook. So if you're just not getting through reading it, honestly, listening to it's pretty great too. You reminded me of two things that I forgot to mention.
All right, let's hear it.
I started listening to Harry Potter on Audible in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
Which is pretty neat. I have to. I normally put my audiobooks like 1.3 speed. I listen to Obama's book. I could have bumped that thing up to like 1.5 speed just because of how Obama talks. He's a very great orator, but he's speaks with a lot of breaks, and you can kind of speed that up. A good book though. You can look back on the first impression on the first 4 years of his presidency. But I've been listening to Harry Potter in Spanish now, and it's fun, and it's funny to hear how they pronounce some of the names, like Harry Potter, and stuff like that, and the accents they put on. So it's easier because I've read the books, I've seen the movies, so it's very easy to picture everything.
Yeah.
I've been getting through a lot of. I know I mentioned this on a previous episode, but I've gotten through some more of Persona 5 Royal. Currently 88 hours in.
Oh, man.
88.
And
okay.
88, and I think I still have
not bad.
2 more. I think I still have to finish the current palace that I'm in, plus another one, and then plus like a bonus one for Royal. So people say it's like 120 hours or so of playtime, so I'm expecting another solid 30 hours in, and I'm all in. It's actually one of the games that I'm like, as I'm getting further on, I'm like getting sad that it's coming to an end. I'm just like, I just want more and more. So if you want a good JRPG and you got 130 hours to spend on,
that's the sort of game that doesn't leave a lot of time for reading, but you can find the time, I suppose, if you're careful.
Right.
But yeah,
it's kept me from playing pretty much anything else on any other system. I got a gajillion other games I want to hit, but it's pretty much been solely Persona.
I know that feeling too. I have put 6 hours, not 88 hours, but 6 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition on the Switch, which is an enhanced port, HD enhanced new content stuff of a Wii game, which I never played, so it's my first time with it. It's cool so far. The battle system took a little bit to get adjusted to. It's kind of like an action combat system, but you still have like a menu of selecting actions and stuff like that. It's not button presses, and there's like auto attacks and stuff like that. But the story's pretty interesting so far. It's kind of got like sweeping landscapes and stuff, and it kind of opens up, and it's just kind of a cool setup. Basically, like there's these two giant world-sized beings that fought each other before things existed, and then like they're something happened, and then like the battle ended, and basically they became solidified. And so basically you start like the world that you live on is just the giant being, like flora and fauna have grown from this gigantic being. So you're kind of like I'm like walking on the leg, which is so big that it just looks like a field or whatever, but like I don't know, that's just kind of the idea. And so you're getting attacked by like beings from the other giant being who are like mechanical things that are, I don't know, trying to kill us or whatever. So we'll figure it out at some point, but it's good. The voice cast is very good. It's a all British voice cast. I think it was a weird one when they localized it into English. They only localized it for the European Union. And so they had like a British cast do it, and then they finally got it over to North America, like very, very limited, kind of like a year or two after it had debuted, I think maybe even in Europe. But yeah, it's good. It's kind of a traditional RPG type storyline. But I am enjoying it so far, and it's one of those games, I think, like Persona 5, promises hours upon hours of gameplay. Probably not 120 to 30, whatever that number was, but certainly I think I'm on chapter 4 of God knows how many, but a lot of stuff to come. But it's fun. It's good. Last big RPG I think I got into was Fire Emblem Three Houses, which I loved, I adored. I've probably talked about it at length on this podcast before, so it feels good to kind of get into something a little bit different, a little, RPG. I've been trying to sink my teeth into something like that, and it just kind of worked out. I had it on the Switch, so I've been playing that. But that's it for me, I think, for this episode. Andrew, is there anything you want to talk about? I don't know if you got everything off your chest yesterday.
I watched a cool documentary called Free Solo.
Oh, that's a good one.
Nice.
That was really good.
Did you get anxious watching it all?
Yeah, I actually did. It's just like, holy shit. Holy shit the entire time. And then every time he would like slip with the ropes, he's like, he's fucking dead. He's dead. He's dead. And then he never slipped. He just fucking climbed that bitch in 2 hours. It's just a fucking monster. He climbed that mountain in like two and a half to 3 hours.
You have
with
to
no
do
fucking
it.
with
Yeah,
no
you have
fucking
to do it,
rope.
no equipment.
Oh my goodness. And that poor guy, there's a cameraman at like the base in like the valley or whatever at the base of the hill trying to film it. And he was the one that started crying when he was talking about Free Solo in it. And he was the guy with the camera. And he was all emotional just talking about it. And then the day of the climb, he's like a nervous wreck. He's pacing back and forth. He can't look at the camera. It's like, I just can't look at him. I just can't look at him.
I mean, yeah. Can you imagine recording like someone's death? Like that's...
Oh, that'd be, yeah. It'd be fucking nervous. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Be terrible. But yeah, what a dude. What a dude. Other than that, I think I'm gonna get off here. I'm gonna watch a Disney movie called
which one?
Raya.
Raya.
How do you pronounce it?
I think it's Raya, but
Raya.
I'm sure the movie will very definitively establish what the correct pronunciation is. So yeah,
I'm gonna watch that.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
I'm tired. It's been a long fucking week.
It sounds like it.
So, well, you know all about long weeks. I can't. I feel like I don't hold a candle to. I don't hold a candle to you now, Henry. It's just.
But you got the constant week to week.
Not in a week. In a week, I
Sure.
take a week's vacation.
Yeah. There you go.
That's all right.
What do you? Yeah.
I'm on spring break right now, so I'm just chilling. I'm just
nice.
watching things and doing things and having
You
fun.
could probably read 1,000 pages this week, Colton.
I might just blow through a whole book. We'll see. We'll have to check in on the next episode and see how I'm faring. So
3 days. Read 1,000 pages in 3 days. Dedicated.
Yeah.
Get dedicated.
probably not, but we'll see. All right. Anything else anyone has been up to that we want to shout out? We ready to call it an episode there?
Let's call it.
Let's do it. Andrew's got a movie to watch. I think I might be doing the same thing. I might be watching a movie myself. So, well, thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the word. If you want to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/watchreviewrepeat. You can get early access to the many episodes that Andrew and I are recording before he takes that vacation. And you'll get timed exclusive access to any bonus episodes that we'll work on in the future, which we will eventually. Our website is watchreviewrepeat.com. You can get helpful links to all of our social media accounts, such as Twitter, where you can follow us at WRRPod, or our Facebook, where you could just like us, like our page there. And you can find it by searching for Watch Review Repeat. If you don't want to go to our website, don't want to give us the clicks for some reason, hey, that's your prerogative. You do what you want to do. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, thoughts on WandaVision, thoughts on Judas and the Black Messiah, thoughts on Raya and the Last Dragon, we're going to cover it, before long. So feel free to send those our way to watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. It can be featured on a future edition of the Listener's Corner. Our intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. So our next episode, I think our plan is to record a couple more before Andrew hightails it out of Florida. We're contemplating a Minari and Nomadland double feature. Henrique obviously talked about Minari just now on this episode, so that's one certainly I think that's going to be worth talking about, probing a little further. Nomadland, it seems like, is going to be worthy of some further conversation as well, based on Andrew's thoughts that he expressed on the last episode. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about Raya and the Last Dragon as well. So, we'll be busy. Lots of good stuff to talk about, lots of good stuff to cover. So look forward to those episodes. I'm not sure the specific order of them. So one or the other, I think, will be kind of coming along, sooner rather than later, we hope. So until our next episode. Thank you very much to Mr. Henrique Jaime for joining us, our resident Marvel expert, coming back in and offering some great insights on WandaVision. So a very, very big thank you, sir, for joining us and participating in this episode.
No, thank you for having me.
And with that, Andrew can take us out.
Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Laters on the Minjay.